This is an introduction to the audio-described version of the short film In Search of Greek Theatre, The Oresteia, Part 1, from the National Theatre. The film lasts just under 9 minutes and will follow immediately after this 4-minute introduction. It's presented by Dr. Lucy Jackson, Assistant Professor in Ancient Greek Literature at Durham University, and Erin Lee, Head of Archive at the National Theatre. Lucy is a white woman in her 30s with short dark brown hair and small hoop earrings. She sometimes wears a yellow cardigan and sometimes a cornflower blue sweatshirt. Erin is a white woman in her 30s with long brown hair pulled back in a ponytail and glasses with black frames. She wears a black short-sleeved top or a long-sleeved cream jumper. In the opening shots, Lucy and Erin are in a large room with archive material set out on tables, including scale models of sets, folders of notes, and grey archive boxes containing photos and hand-painted set and costume designs. There are also costumes and masks on stands. The full-face masks have openings for eyes and mouths, and are painted a single neutral colour, with long hair made of twine dyed black or bright red. In a basement storeroom, rows of metal shelves on wheels are moved together and apart by winding handles. Erin and Lucy sit in a gap between the shelves of grey boxes and open plastic crates, taking out more masks. In the archive reading room, a researcher sits down and puts on headphones to watch a recording. As Erin and Lucy speak, stills and video are shown in close-up, black and white photos of masks designed by Jocelyn Herbert, typed notes and research material, including designs from ancient Greek vases. A photo of the open-air theatre at Epidaurus in 1983 shows a bowl-shaped space set into the hills. Stone benches to seat 15,000 people descend to a circular playing area with a single-storey building behind it and trees and mountains beyond. A photo of the set for the 1981 production echoes this form, with a circular disc on the floor and a few steps leading up to a rectangular wall of shiny material. A figure emerges from a doorway in the wall. Photos of the 1981 production show the chorus, a group of old men leaning on staffs. They have masks with open mouths and hollow eyes, sculpted beards and leather skull caps. The Eumenides, or Furies, have masks with very long, curly red hair. Agamemnon has a silvery metal helmet that wraps around the cheeks of his mask, with a strip of metal covering the nose and a vertical ridge on top suggesting plumes. As Erin mentions Jocelyn Herbert's earlier set designs from the 1960s, drawings from the archive are shown. They're in pen and ink, with washes of grey ink and an occasional dot of colour. A photo of Jocelyn Herbert in 1988 shows a slender woman of 70, crouching on her heels as she paints a pattern representing Greek characters on a section of set lying on the floor. A series of sketches move from early pencil drawings exploring the proportions of masks to pen and ink designs for the combined helmet and mask for Agamemnon. Lucy and Erin look through grey archive folders and carefully hand photos and drawings to each other, smiling as they read production notes and diaries. National Theatre, In Search of Greek Theatre, The Oresteia.
I'm Lucy Jackson, Assistant Professor in Ancient Greek Literature.
I'm Erin Lee, Head of Archive at the National Theatre.
In this series of films, Erin and I will be looking at some of the Greek tragedies that have been staged at the National Theatre. Using the records held in the theatre's archive as a starting point, we'll look at the practicalities of staging an ancient Greek play in a modern theatre building.
The archive is home to thousands of items, from photographs to prompt scripts, technical drawings to set models, dating all the way back to our opening night in 1963. Every production has left behind some traces of the multiple artistic choices and practical considerations that go into making a performance.
By exploring these plays as staged productions, rather than as pieces of literature, we begin to see these ancient works in a new light. Going behind the scenes of the productions makes us ask fresh questions about why these plays and their myths are still relevant today.
A landmark production, a group of masks including a Fury with long red hair.
The Oresteia in 1981 was a landmark production in the National Theatre's history. This new version of Aeschylus's play, written by Tony Harrison, was directed by Peter Hall and designed by Jocelyn Herbert.
The production had a run of 61 performances in rep from November 1981 to May 1982 in the Olivier Theatre. But it also went on to have a life in multiple other venues. The cast and crew were invited to perform their Oresteia in the ancient theatre of Epidaurus in Greece in June of 1982. They were the first foreign company to perform an ancient tragedy at Epidaurus, an honour that spoke to the production's cultural impact.
After that, the production was filmed and televised on Channel 4, in a time before streaming platforms and even before the National's own NT at Home service came into being. Putting this epic play on publicly available TV again showed the cultural weight of this production. Although the televised performance ran for over 5 hours, it managed to keep viewers on the edge of their seats.
Even since then, the production continued to shape the lives and careers of the creative team. Peter Hall would use the same approach of using masks and non-naturalistic acting in his later productions of Greek tragedies, the 2 Oedipus plays of Sophocles in 1995 and Euripides' Bacchae in 2004. The writer, Tony Harrison, and designer, Jocelyn Herbert, continued to have a long and fruitful professional relationship, something that we see in their many letters and postcards to each other, held in the National Theatre's archive.
The Oresteia, an epic retelling, translated by Tony Harrison.
The Oresteia in itself is already an epic work. First performed in 458 BCE, it consists of a trilogy of plays. The Agamemnon, where the great Greek hero returns victorious from Troy, only to be murdered by his wife, Clytemnestra. The Libation Bearers, which tells the story of Agamemnon and Clytemnestra's children seeking vengeance against their mother for the murder. And the Eumenides, where Clytemnestra's son, Orestes, is pursued by the Furies, goddesses who punish all those who murder their kin.
Unlike what is common today, the play is not updated to a 20th or 21st century setting. The creative team took their inspiration from ancient Greek practice. All performers wore masks. The verse lines were delivered rhythmically and with musical accompaniment, and a stylized approach was taken in both acting style and in the director's choices.
While the creative team were inspired by what we know of ancient Greek theatre practices, this was not a reconstruction of how it actually was. The designer Jocelyn Herbert noted in a lecture she gave about the production that such a reconstruction would be impossible. However, one aspect of the production that contributed to an authentic ancient Greek feel was the design and use of stage space.
Both the live performances and the televised version of the Oresteia took place in the Olivier Auditorium at the National Theatre. This auditorium, designed by NT architect Dennis Lasdon, was based on the ancient Greek theatre model. It has a similar large circular playing space, semicircular seating, and does not have a proscenium arch, which is that frame that we find in many theatres that separates stage from audience.
In ancient Greek theatre practice, set would be minimal, and actors would have to create a dramatic atmosphere without being able to make use of a darkened auditorium or lots of props. In this production of the Oresteia, the creative team followed the ancient Greek model closely. The sparse, spare staging, where the text and the actors held the audience's attention, proved invaluable when the modern production moved to the open-air theatre at Epidaurus.
It's fascinating to note, however, that a pared-back design was already a key component in the designer Jocelyn Herbert's practice. We can clearly observe this approach in the 60s and 70s when she designed many extremely modern productions of, for example, the plays of Samuel Beckett, also utilising minimal set and props. It's amazing to see how the ancient and modern practice converged at this point in theatre history.
Designing the Oresteia, a pen and ink drawing.
Thanks to the rich set of archive materials left by designer Jocelyn Herbert, we have a unique insight into the production process. She is an iconic figure in theatre history who worked on many other productions at the Royal Court Theatre and at the National Theatre. Jocelyn Herbert was the first female designer at the NT back in the 1960s. She was instrumental in developing the role of the designer as someone who has a creative input equal to the writer and director of a production. The Jocelyn Herbert collection, which came to the NT archive in 2014, is an incredible resource. It covers her full career and includes over 6,000 drawings and sketches for her productions, over 300 of her notebooks from when she was 16 all the way through to the day she died at the age of 86. It also preserves model pieces, correspondence, photographs, programmes, and of course her masks from productions such as the Oresteia and the opera The Mask of Orpheus. Jocelyn's collection is so exciting because it allows us to see the full process that a designer goes through when planning a new production. From the initial meetings and correspondence with the writer and director of the production, through to storyboarding the ideas. We can observe how she experiments with design techniques, as we see with her early versions of masks, through to the models for sharing with the creative team. We are so lucky to have this amazing collection at the NT. These kinds of records of the design process are not always kept in this much detail, and it gives a fascinating perspective on how a play like the Oresteia comes into being. Current students of theatre design come to consult this collection too, showing how Jocelyn's design processes evolve into new methods for staging productions.
It's often tempting to privilege the role of the director, writer, or main actors for a production, of a Greek tragedy or of any play. What these archive materials really underline for us is how important the designer is for shaping a play's artistic concept and its impact on audiences.
Search for yourself. A woman watches a film in the archive.
The National Theatre Archive really is a unique resource that allows you to get up close to all these incredible productions and explore new interpretations of classic texts.
If you want to come down and see any of this content for yourself, then feel free to contact us via our website.
nationaltheatre.org.uk/archive. The audio description was by Eleanor Margulies for Vocalise.